Joining us now for more on this ceasefire deal is Andrew Hilliar from our International Affairs desk. Andrew, there were a lot of delays, but the ceasefire deal is finally over the line.
It is almost over the line indeed. Earlier today, the Israeli Prime Minister's office confirming that a deal to return the hostages had been concluded after some last-minute issues had been resolved. Israeli media is reporting that the Security Cabinet is meeting now to ratify that deal. You'll remember, of course, that there was a lot of momentum yesterday, and that's when we thought the Security Cabinet was going to hold its meeting, followed by a full cabinet meeting of the government. Then that was postponed. The Prime Minister's office blaming Hamas for supposedly making last-minute demands. Hamas denied those reports, saying that they were fully committed to implementing the deal. Now, what isn't clear at the moment is exactly when the full cabinet meeting of the government will take place. It may take place on Saturday evening. Now, if that happens, there were fears that that could push back the timetable for the implementation of this deal. The deal, of course, is supposed to come into effect, the ceasefire, on Sunday, and that's when it's hoped the first batch of hostages will be released. There were fears that that would push the release of those hostages back to Monday, the same day as Donald Trump's inauguration, but the Israeli Prime Minister's office has just in the last hour insisted that those that first batch of releases will go ahead on Sunday as planned. Either way, preparations are being made for the return of those hostages in Israel. 33 hostages in the first phase of that deal, hostages who have spent more than 460 days in captivity, Oliver.
Now, Netanyahu, as we've seen in that report, is facing opposition from the far-right members of his cabinet, such as Itamar Ben-Gvir. They've threatened to resign over the deal. How serious are these threats?
Well, it's unclear whether yesterday's delay in approving the deal was because of Hamas making last-minute demands, as the Prime Minister's office claimed, or because of internal dissent in Netanyahu's ruling coalition, or a mixture of the two. There are reports the hold-ups may have been Netanyahu's last-minute efforts to stop his coalition from collapsing. That's because both far-right ministers, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, as you pointed out, have in succession denounced the deal and threatened to quit the government. On Wednesday, Smotrich called the deal a bad deal for the security of the state of Israel. He said his party, Religious Zionism, won't accept anything less than the complete military defeat of Hamas on the battlefield. Last night, Itamar Ben-Gvir echoed that stance. He said he'd quit the government if the deal was approved. Now, he also said he'd consider returning to government if the war resumes after the first phase due to last 42 days. If both men withdraw their party's support from Benjamin Netanyahu's coalition, that would deprive Netanyahu of the current majority he has in the Knesset, which is the Israeli parliament. Opposition parties, in the meantime, have said they'll support Netanyahu as long as he's pushing through the deal. Either way, it's quite clear that what these two far-right ministers want are clear assurances that the war will pick up again once the first phase is over. However, the second phase of that ceasefire deal is supposed to lead to a permanent ceasefire and the release of the remaining hostages. So these are clearly two contradictory objectives that are going to be impossible to reconcile.
Thank you very much for that, Andrew Hilliar.